Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Terra Nova watching the stars through the main viewport. 18 months had passed since they left Earth with 50,000 colonists heading to their new home in the Kepler 442 system. The journey had been peaceful and quiet until Tadalisa Park looked up from her navigation console with worry in her eyes. "Captain, we have multiple contacts approaching from deep space," she said. "The energy readings are unlike anything in our database." Danny Clark wiped sweat from his forehead as he checked the engineering displays. "Sir, the power signatures are massive. Whatever is coming our way has technology far beyond ours." Morrison felt his stomach drop, but kept his voice steady. "How long until they reach us?" 12 minutes at their current speed," Park replied. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of computers and life support systems. Morrison had commanded cargo ships and patrol vessels, but never faced a situation like this. The Terra Nova was a colony ship built for transport, not combat. Their escort frigates carried basic weapons, but nothing that could match advanced alien technology. "Sir," called out Communications Officer Tony Rivers. "I am picking up a transmission. It is on multiple frequencies. Put it on speakers," Morrison ordered. A harsh alien voice filled the bridge, speaking in broken English. "Human vessel, you will surrender immediately. I am Commander HFY of the Vaktai Empire. Your species is now property of our domain." Morrison stepped forward. "This is Captain Morrison of the UES Terra Nova. We are peaceful colonists seeking to establish a settlement." "We mean no harm to anyone," the alien voice laughed coldly. "Humans are weak creatures suitable only for labor in our mining operations. You have 1 minute to power down your engines and prepare for boarding. Resistance will result in complete destruction." Through the viewport, Morrison saw them emerging from hyperspace. Dozens of crimson-hulled warships appeared like blood drops against the black of space. Each vessel was 3 times larger than the Terra Nova and bristled with weapon arrays that glowed with deadly energy. "Captain, what are your orders?" Park asked. Morrison looked at his crew. These people trusted him to keep them safe, but he knew they were facing impossible odds. The Vaktai ships moved with predatory grace, surrounding the human fleet like wolves circling prey. "Open a channel," he said. "Channel open, sir, Commander HFY. We have civilians aboard, including women and children." "Surely we can reach some kind of agreement. Civilians will work in agricultural sectors. The strong will labor in mines. The weak will be disposed of. This is our way with all conquered species." The first demonstration of Vaktai power came without warning. Beams of red energy lanced out from the alien fleet, striking the escort frigate UES Guardian. The human ship exploded in a ball of fire and debris that lit up the darkness. 50 crew members died, and second screams echoed through the Terra Novas corridors as colonists witnessed the destruction through observation windows. Parents pulled their children away from the viewports, but there was nowhere to hide from the reality of their situation. "Sir, the UES Defender is trying to engage," Rivers reported. Morrison watched helplessly as their second escort ship fired its missiles and plasma cannons at the nearest Vaktai vessel. The human weapons struck invisible barriers around the alien ship and exploded harmlessly. Return fire from the Vaktai reduced the Defender to scrap metal in moments. "They are scanning," U.S. Clark said from his station. "Deep penetration scans of our hull structure and internal systems." The Vaktai were studying them like specimens in a laboratory. Morrison realized they were not dealing with honorable warriors, but with predators who viewed humans as nothing more than useful animals, Captain Park whispered. "The escape pods," Morrison understood immediately. If some colonists could reach the planets in the system, they might survive to warn Earth. It was a desperate plan, but their only hope. "Begin emergency evacuation procedures," he ordered quietly. "Priority to families with children. Move quickly." And quietly, "Human vessel, your time has expired," Commander HFY announced. "Prepare to be boarded." Dark shapes detached from the Vaktai ships heading toward the Terra Nova. Boarding craft moved with alien purpose, cutting through space like daggers aimed at the heart of humanity's dreams. Morrison activated the ship-wide communication system. "All hands, this is the captain. We are under attack by hostile alien forces. Follow emergency protocols. Protect the children." Remember that Earth must be warned. The first boarding craft latched onto the Terra Nova's hull. Near the cargo bays, cutting tools began slicing through the reinforced metal as if it were paper. Morrison could hear the screams of colonists echoing through the corridors as Vacti soldiers poured into their ship. Sir, boarding parties have breached decks 7 through 12, Rivers reported. They are herding civilians into the main cargo holds. Through security cameras, Morrison watched as tall reptilian aliens in powered armor drove human families like cattle. The Vacti moved with efficient brutality, using energy weapons to stun anyone who resisted. They treated humans exactly as they had promised, like livestock to be sorted and processed. Captain, escape pod launches are at 60%, Clark announced. But the Vacti are targeting some of the pods? Morrison's heart broke as he watched alien fighters destroying escape pods filled with families. But some were getting through, heading for the outer planets where they might find shelter in the asteroid fields or on the smaller moons. The bridge doors exploded inward as Vacti soldiers stormed in. Morrison drew his sidearm, knowing it was useless but unwilling to surrender without some gesture of defiance. The aliens moved like liquid. Death in their crimson armor. Commander Zexhai entered behind his troops. The alien commander stood 7 feet tall with scales that shifted between red and black. His eyes were cold yellow orbs that showed no emotion except contempt. Human captain, Zexhai said. Your species will serve the Empire well. You breed quickly and adapt to harsh conditions. Perfect qualities for slave labor. Morrison met the alien's gaze without flinching. You made a mistake coming here. What mistake could primitives like you possibly represent? Morrison smiled grimly as he activated his final transmission to Earth. They brought hell to our doorstep. But they don't know what humans become when. We have nothing left to lose. The last thing Morrison saw before the stun weapon hit him was Lisa Park's escape pod disappearing into the asteroid field. Some humans had survived, and they would remember this day forever. 3 years had passed since the Vacti destroyed the Terra Nova and scattered the human colonists across 4 different worlds. Alex Carter crouched in the shadows of the mining complex on Kepler 442, watching the alien guards patrol their section. The former Marine sergeant had learned to move like a ghost through the industrial wasteland that had become his prison. Kate Sullivan finished treating another injured worker in the makeshift medical bay they had hidden behind broken machinery. The doctor had seen too much suffering in the past 3 years, but she kept working because hope was all they had left. Every day more humans died in the toxic mines while the Vacti demanded higher production quotas. Bobby Chun looked up from the alien device he was studying by candlelight. The engineer had spent months learning how Vacti technology worked by watching their captors and examining discarded equipment. Tonight he thought he understood how their energy weapons functioned. The power cells use a crystalline matrix, Chun whispered to Carter and Sullivan. If we could modify the frequency, we might be able to overload their systems. Carter nodded, but his attention was focused on the guard rotation schedule he had memorized. The Vacti were efficient but predictable. They followed the same patterns every day because they believed humans were too stupid to notice. On the agricultural world of Kepler 442d, Maria Santos crouched in an abandoned communications station. She had rebuilt using salvaged parts. The former Terra Nova officer had managed to establish contact with human survivors on all 4 worlds. Her underground network carried messages between the scattered groups using frequencies the Vacti ignored. The communication device crackled to life with a weak signal from the mining world. This is Carter. We have 37 survivors ready to move. What is the status of the other groups? Maria checked her coded messages. Industrial Complex 7 has 42 people. The farming settlements report 61. We are looking at over 300 humans still alive across all locations. Good. Carter's voice came through the static. Tell everyone to prepare for coordinated action. We are done being their animals. The humans had changed during their 3 years in captivity. The soft colonists who dreamed of peaceful farming had been replaced by hard survivors who understood that mercy was a luxury they could not afford. Children born in the camps knew only violence and hatred for their alien oppressors. Carter remembered the old Alex who followed rules and tried to minimize casualties. That man had died when he watched Vaktai soldiers execute human prisoners. For entertainment. The Alex who remained cared only about survival and revenge. In the medical bay, Kate Sullivan documented the strange changes she observed in human physiology. Workers exposed to alien toxins and extreme radiation showed adaptations that should have been impossible. Enhanced night vision reflexes that bordered on supernatural and resistance to chemicals that should have killed them. Look at this. Showed Carter tissue samples under a microscope they had stolen from a Vaktai laboratory. The cellular structure is evolving faster than any known biological process. It is like our bodies are adapting to become perfect predators. Carter studied the samples with interest. The children show it most. Have you seen how quietly they move? Even the Vaktai guards cannot hear them coming. Young humans born in the camps displayed abilities that frightened even their parents. They learned to navigate the complex tunnel systems in complete darkness and could sense alien movement through vibrations in the metal walls. Most disturbing was their complete lack of fear when facing their captors. Lisa Park emerged from the ventilation shaft, carrying stolen supplies from the Vaktai barracks. The former navigation officer had become an expert thief who could penetrate any alien facility. Her team of camp-born teenagers moved through the enemy installations like deadly shadows. We got their duty schedules for next week, she reported to Carter. Plus 3 energy weapons and a case of their food concentrates. Carter examined the alien weapons with growing understanding. The Vaktai technology was advanced but not magical. With enough study and the right modifications, humans could turn their captors' tools against them. The resistance network grew stronger each day as survivors shared information and resources. They learned to exploit the Vaktai rigid thinking and overconfidence. The aliens never suspected that their primitive slaves were studying every aspect of their operations on the outer mining stations. Ryan Clark led a team of saboteurs who specialized in making alien equipment fail at critical moments. The former maintenance worker understood how to make systems break down in ways that looked like accidents rather than deliberate attacks. The key is patience, Clark explained to his team as they prepared another operation. We make their lives difficult, one small failure at a time. Eventually they will make mistakes we can exploit. The Vaktai began to notice increased equipment failures and unexplained accidents, but they blamed poor maintenance rather than human interference. Their arrogance prevented them from recognizing that their slaves had become students of warfare. Carter coordinated with the other group leaders through Maria's communication network. They planned carefully, studying alien patrol patterns and identifying weak points in the enemy security systems. The humans had learned that direct confrontation was suicide, but guerrilla tactics could level the playing field. We hit them next week during the shift change, Carter transmitted to the other groups. Multiple targets simultaneously. Make them think we have larger numbers than we actually do. The camp-born children volunteered for the most dangerous missions because they felt no fear and understood no mercy. 12-year-old Emma Morrison had grown up hearing stories about her father's final transmission. She carried his words like a sacred promise that humans would make the aliens pay for their crimes. Kate Sullivan worried about what they were becoming, but she understood the necessity. The gentle doctor who had once saved lives now helped plan operations that would end them. Survival required evolution, and humans were evolving into something their captors could not predict or control. The Vaktai treated their prisoners like animals because they could not imagine that humans possessed the intelligence and determination to fight back effectively. Their mistake was assuming that superior technology guaranteed permanent dominance. Carter stood in the darkness of the mining tunnels surrounded by survivors who had been forged into weapons by 3 years of systematic brutality. They were no longer the peaceful colonists who had left Earth seeking a better life. The camps had created something new and deadly. They wanted to break us, Carter told his team as they prepared for their first major operation. Instead, they forged us into something they should fear. The humans had learned patience and cunning from masters of cruelty. They studied their enemies with the dedication of scholars and the focus of predators. Soon, the Vaktai would discover that their slaves had become students of a very different kind of education in the shadows of alien installations across 4 worlds. Humans prepared to show their captors what 3 years of suffering had taught them about the true nature of warfare. The human resistance struck like lightning across all 4 worlds simultaneously. Alex Carter led his team through the ventilation systems of the main mining complex, while Kate Sullivan and Bobby Chun created diversions in the lower levels. 3 years of careful planning culminated in 47 coordinated attacks that left the Vaktai reeling on. Kepler 442b. Ryan Clark and his saboteurs infiltrated the primary communication hub during the night shift change. Instead of destroying the facility outright, they installed hidden programs that would monitor all alien transmissions while gradually degrading system efficiency. The Vaktai would slowly lose their ability to coordinate between worlds without understanding why. Maria Santos coordinated the attacks from her hidden communication center, directing teams across multiple planets with precision that amazed even her. The camp-born teenagers moved through alien installations like ghosts, leaving behind evidence of much larger forces than actually existed. Emma Morrison led a group of children born in captivity into the Vaktai administrative complex. These young humans had never known peace or mercy, and they moved with deadly purpose through corridors where their parents once worked as slaves. Their complete silence and coordination terrified the alien guards who encountered them. The first major victory came when Carter's team eliminated an entire Vaktai garrison on Kepler 442e. 23 alien soldiers died without managing to send a distress signal. The humans used captured weapons and their knowledge of alien psychology to turn the facility into a trap. Kate Sullivan documented how the systematic brutality had changed human behavior in ways that shocked even her. Parents who once protected their children from violence now trained them to kill efficiently. The camps had created a generation that viewed alien suffering as entertainment rather than tragedy. "Look what they made us become," Sullivan whispered to Carter as she watched 12-year-old humans discussing torture techniques with casual expertise. "We are turning into something worse than our captors." Carter felt no guilt about the transformation. "They chose to treat us like animals. Now they can face what animals become when they learn to fight back." The humans had developed tactics that the Vaktai could not comprehend. Where aliens fought with honor according to military doctrine, humans used deception, psychological warfare, and absolute ruthlessness. They contaminated food supplies with slow-acting toxins and used captured Vaktai as bait for rescue operations. Amy Rodriguez had been a corporate lawyer before the invasion, but 3 years in the camps taught her different skills. She established a spy network using humans who worked as servants in alien facilities. The Vaktai never suspected that their domestic staff were gathering intelligence about fleet movements and supply lines. The children proved especially valuable as spies because the aliens dismissed them as harmless. Camp-born humans could memorize complex security codes and patrol schedules after single observations. Their enhanced pattern recognition abilities made them living recording devices. Bobby Chun's modifications to captured alien weapons gave the humans their first technological advantage. The engineer had learned to exploit flaws in Vaktai shield systems and power grids. Human attacks could now penetrate defenses that had seemed impregnable. Commander Zexhai sent increasingly desperate reports to his superiors, describing aberrant human behavior that defied all predictions. The aliens had conquered 17 different species using overwhelming force, but humans refused to accept defeat even when facing impossible odds. "The primitives are displaying unprecedented coordination," Zexhai reported. "Their attacks show tactical sophistication that contradicts all intelligence about their capabilities." The Vaktai response was predictably rigid. They increased security measures and imposed harsher punishments, but their hierarchical thinking prevented rapid adaptation to human creativity. Every new restriction created opportunities for resourceful survivors to exploit. Linda Hayes had been a corporate executive who understood how bureaucratic systems functioned. She helped the resistance identify weak points in Vaktai administration, where small acts of sabotage could create massive disruptions. Her knowledge of organizational psychology proved as valuable as any weapon. The humans began displaying behaviors that disturbed even their hardened survivors. They tortured, captured aliens not just for information but for the psychological impact on other Vaktai forces. The camps had taught them that fear was more powerful than any energy weapon. Carol Wright used her background in advertising to develop propaganda that exploited alien cultural weaknesses. The Vaktai honor-based society crumbled when humans broadcast evidence of their commanders' cowardice and military failures. Internal strife weakened the enemy more effectively than direct attacks. Ryan Clark's teams poisoned water supplies in alien barracks with chemicals that caused gradual neurological damage. The Vaktai attributed increasing coordination problems to equipment failures rather than deliberate sabotage. Human patience allowed for long-term strategies that confused their captors, the campborn. Children showed adaptations that went beyond enhanced senses and reflexes. They demonstrated an almost supernatural ability to predict alien behavior and coordinate complex operations without verbal communication. Kate Sullivan wondered if extreme stress had triggered dormant genetic sequences. Emma Morrison could move through heavily guarded facilities without being detected by any security system. Her team of young humans eliminated high-value targets with efficiency that impressed veteran soldiers like Carter. These children had been shaped by their environment into perfect weapons. The Vaktai began suffering equipment failures, communication breakdowns, and supply shortages that seemed random but followed patterns only humans could recognize. The aliens increased their security measures, but every new restriction created fresh opportunities for exploitation. Carter coordinated with resistance leaders across all 4 worlds using Maria's expanded communication network. They shared intelligence about alien weaknesses and coordinated attacks that maximized psychological impact. The goal was not just military victory, but complete demoralization of enemy forces. The humans had learned to use the Vaktai-owned technology and psychology against them with devastating effectiveness. Former slaves became masters of psychological warfare who understood exactly how to break their enemies' spirits. The transformation was complete and terrifying. Kate Sullivan realized that the survivors were becoming something new that combined human adaptability with predatory instincts forged in the crucible of alien oppression. They retained their intelligence and creativity, but had lost the moral constraints that defined civilized behavior. The Vaktai Empire faced its first serious challenge in centuries as humans proved that superior technology could not guarantee permanent dominance over determined opponents. The aliens had created their own worst nightmare by teaching humans that survival required the complete abandonment of Mercy. Commander Zek's final transmission before losing contact with his superiors was both prediction and warning. The humans are no longer the species we conquered. They have become something else entirely. 6 months after their first major victory, the human resistance had transformed from desperate survivors into a sophisticated guerrilla army. Hidden bases throughout the asteroid belt manufactured weapons using salvaged Vaktai technology combined with human engineering innovations that the aliens never anticipated. Alex Carter stood in the command center of their largest hidden facility, watching tactical displays that showed Vaktai positions across all 4 worlds. The former Marine had become something his old commanding officers would not recognize: a strategist who understood that victory required abandoning every principle he once held sacred. Carol Wright broadcast another propaganda transmission designed to exploit Vaktai cultural weaknesses. The former advertising executive had learned to turn the aliens' honor-based society against itself by spreading reports of command failures and cowardice that triggered internal conflicts within their ranks. Commander Zek's fled from human children, Wright announced over hijacked communication channels. The great warrior hides behind energy barriers while primitives destroy his forces. How can such cowardice be tolerated by the Empire? The psychological warfare campaign proved devastatingly effective. Vaktai military units began questioning their commander's loyalty and competence. The rigid hierarchical structure that once provided strength became a weakness that humans exploited with surgical precision. Bobby Chun had completed his analysis of Vaktai's shield technology and discovered a critical vulnerability that could change everything. The engineer gathered the resistance leadership in his makeshift laboratory to demonstrate his breakthrough discovery. Their power grid operates on harmonic frequencies. Jun explained while manipulating captured alien equipment. If we attack specific nodes simultaneously, we can trigger cascade failures that will collapse their entire defensive network. Emma Morrison studied the technical specifications with the cold analysis that characterized her generation. The young woman had grown up planning military operations and viewed alien technology as tools to be mastered rather than mysteries to be feared. Kate Sullivan documented the continuing evolution of human survivors with growing concern about what they were becoming. The physical adaptations were remarkable, but the psychological changes troubled her deeply. The capacity for empathy had been systematically eliminated by 3 years of systematic brutality. "We are creating monsters," Sullivan confided to Carter during a quiet moment between operations. "These children know only hatred and violence. What happens when we no longer have enemies to fight?" Carter showed no emotion as he watched camp-born teenagers practicing interrogation techniques on captured Vaktai soldiers. "We become whatever we need to become to survive." The old humanity was too weak to face what the universe really contains. Amy Rodriguez coordinated the largest intelligence operation, yet attempted using her network of human spies embedded throughout Vaktai facilities. Former servants and laborers had become perfect infiltrators who gathered critical information about enemy fleet movements and strategic planning. The humans prepared for simultaneous attacks on all major Vaktai installations across the 4 worlds. The operation required precise timing and coordination that would have been impossible without their communication network and enhanced human capabilities. Ryan Clark's sabotage teams had spent months preparing the battlefield by weakening critical infrastructure and planting hidden explosive devices throughout enemy facilities. The maintenance worker turned demolitions expert understood exactly how to maximize damage while minimizing human casualties. "Remember, the goal is not just military victory," Carter addressed the assault teams before they departed. "We want the survivors to carry word back to their empire about what happens when you try to enslave humanity." The attack began at exactly midnight across all 4 worlds with coordinated strikes that demonstrated human tactical sophistication. Vaktai positions that had seemed impregnable crumbled under assaults that exploited every weakness. The resistance had identified Maria Santos, monitored communications from her command center as reports flowed in from teams across multiple planets. The former Terra Nova officer coordinated the complex operation with skills that impressed even veteran military personnel. Emma Morrison led the assault on the primary command facility where Commander Zexhai had established his headquarters. Her team of camp-born humans moved through the installation like deadly shadows, eliminating guards and security systems with ghost-like efficiency. The young woman found the alien commander cowering in his private quarters surrounded by the luxuries he had stolen from human colonists. Zexhai, who had once seemed invincible, now trembled before a teenage girl who felt no mercy or hesitation. "You called us primitives," Emma said calmly as she activated recording equipment to broadcast his final moments. "Now you can explain to your empire how primitives defeated their greatest warrior." Bobby Chun's frequency attack succeeded beyond all expectations as cascade failures brought down Vaktai defensive networks throughout the system. Energy barriers that had protected alien installations flickered and died, leaving their occupants vulnerable to human assault teams. The Vaktai tried to coordinate a counterattack, but their communication systems had been compromised by Ryan Clark's earlier sabotage operations. Orders became confused, contradictory messages that prevented effective resistance to the human offensive. Kate Sullivan treated wounded humans in field hospitals while documenting the systematic efficiency with which her people eliminated alien opposition. The doctor watched teenagers who had never known peace coordinate complex military operations with natural skill. Carol Wright broadcast the interrogation of captured Vaktai commanders to demoralize remaining enemy forces. The propaganda specialist understood that psychological victory was as important as military success in determining the final outcome. Your mighty empire cannot protect you from human children, Wright announced over hijacked channels. How will you explain this failure to your superiors when primitive animals have destroyed your greatest fleet? The humans used captured Vacti as human shields and executed prisoners in sight of their comrades to maximize psychological impact. The aliens, bound by honor codes and military traditions, could not adapt to enemies who recognized no limits. Linda Hayes coordinated supply operations that kept human forces equipped with weapons and provisions taken from conquered alien facilities. The former executive had become a logistics expert who understood how to sustain military operations using captured resources. Amy Rodriguez interrogated high-ranking Vacti officers to extract information about Empire fleet movements and strategic plans. The former lawyer used psychological techniques that broke alien resistance more effectively than physical torture. The resistance had learned to use biological weapons specifically designed to target Vacti physiology. Viruses that attacked alien immune systems spread through their ranks, causing gradual weakening that made them vulnerable to secondary infections. Ryan Clark eliminated the last Vacti stronghold by detonating nuclear devices hidden throughout the facility's foundation. The explosion could be seen from orbit and served as a message to any aliens who might consider future invasion attempts. The battle ended with complete human victory and the total destruction of Vacti forces throughout the system of the original occupation army. Only a handful of survivors escaped to carry word of the disaster back to their empire. Carter surveyed the aftermath from his command center, watching as human teams systematically eliminated any remaining alien presence. The transformation was complete. Former slaves had become masters of warfare who understood exactly how to destroy their enemies. Emma Morrison stood among the wreckage of the Vacti command center, holding Commander Zexhi's personal weapon as a trophy. The young woman, who had never known peace, felt only satisfaction at the sight of alien defeat. The humans had not just won a military victory, they had demonstrated that no species could safely underestimate human determination and adaptability. The galaxy would remember this lesson for generations to come. The Vacti Empire finally responded to the disaster in the Kepler 442 system by sending their largest military force in recorded history. High Admiral Kexmore commanded 200 warships carrying 50,000 elite troops, representing the combined might of 12 conquered worlds united against the human threat. Alex Carter studied intelligence reports from Amy Rodriguez's spy network as the massive alien fleet approached their system. The former Marine had spent 2 years preparing for this moment, transforming the entire star system into an elaborate trap designed to destroy any invasion. Force Emma Morrison coordinated with resistance leaders across multiple worlds as they implemented the final phase of their defensive strategy. The young woman had grown into a brilliant tactical commander who understood warfare with an intuition that impressed even veteran soldiers like Carter. Kate Sullivan worked with captured alien scientists to perfect the biological weapons they had developed specifically to target Vacti physiology. The virus attacked immune systems, gradually weakening victims over several weeks. While remaining undetectable by standard medical scanners, the beauty of this weapon is its subtlety, Sullivan explained to the War Council as she demonstrated the pathogen's effects. By the time symptoms appear, the entire fleet will be infected and vulnerable to secondary complications. Bobby Chen had weaponized everything in the system, from asteroids fitted with concealed engines to abandoned mining stations that now contained nuclear devices. Even space debris had been programmed to execute coordinated attacks when the enemy fleet entered optimal range. Carol Wright prepared propaganda broadcasts designed to demoralize Vacti forces before the battle began. The psychological warfare specialist had learned to exploit every aspect of alien culture and psychology to maximize the impact of fear and uncertainty. We will show them what happens when primitives learn to fight, Wright announced over hijacked communication channels. Your empire sent you here to die against enemies you cannot understand or defeat. Ryan Clark positioned nuclear mines throughout the system's gravity well, using salvaged alien stealth technology to keep them hidden from enemy sensors. The demolitions expert had learned to think on a strategic scale that encompassed entire star systems. High Admiral Kexmore led his fleet into the system, expecting to crush primitive resistance with overwhelming firepower. The alien commander had studied reports from the previous invasion, but dismissed them as exaggerations caused by local commander incompetence. These humans are clever animals, but they lack the technology and training to challenge a proper military force, Kexmore told his staff officers. We will demonstrate Imperial superiority and restore order to this sector. The Vaktai fleet entered the system in perfect formation, following standard tactical doctrine that had proven successful against 17 different species. The aliens never considered that their enemies might have spent years studying their methods and preparing specific countermeasures. Maria Santos coordinated the defensive operation from her expanded command center, monitoring enemy movements and timing the activation of hidden weapons systems. The former communications officer had become a strategic coordinator who managed complexity that would challenge any military organization. The human attack began when the Vaktai fleet reached the point of no return deep within the system's gravity well. Asteroids accelerated to tremendous speeds and slammed into alien ships, while hidden nuclear devices detonated throughout the fleet formation. Emma Morrison led boarding parties of camp-born teenagers who had grown up planning such operations. These young humans moved through alien ships like deadly shadows, eliminating crew members with efficiency that terrified even hardened Vaktai warriors. The humans had abandoned every convention of civilized warfare, learning to target medical ships, execute prisoners, and use captured aliens as human shields. The Vaktai, bound by honor codes and military traditions, could not adapt to enemies who recognized no moral limitations. Amy Rodriguez coordinated intelligence gathering during the battle as her spy network provided real-time information about enemy command decisions and tactical responses. The former Lauer had become a master of information warfare who understood how to exploit enemy weaknesses. High Admiral Kexmore watched his fleet disintegrate under human attacks that seemed to come from every direction simultaneously. The alien commander had expected conventional resistance, but faced enemies who fought with creativity and ruthlessness that defied all military doctrine. Kate Sullivan deployed biological weapons through captured Vaktai air recycling systems, spreading the immune-suppressing virus throughout enemy ships. The pathogen would weaken alien crews over the following weeks, making them vulnerable to secondary infections and reducing combat effectiveness. Bobby Chun triggered cascade failures in Vaktai power grids using the frequency vulnerabilities he had discovered years earlier. Enemy ships lost defensive shields and weapon systems as their own technology turned against them under human manipulation. The camp-born humans proved to be perfect warriors for this type of conflict, moving through alien ships with supernatural coordination and showing no mercy toward their enemies. These teenagers had been shaped by their environment into living weapons. Carol Wright broadcast the systematic destruction of Vaktai forces to demoralize surviving enemy units. The propaganda specialist understood that psychological victory was as important as military success in determining the final outcome of the battle. Your mighty empire cannot save you from human children, Wright announced over captured communication channels. You came here expecting to fight primitives, but you face something far more dangerous. Ryan Clark detonated nuclear devices throughout the fleet formation, eliminating entire squadrons of enemy ships and coordinated explosions that lit up the darkness of space. The demolitions expert had learned to think like a strategic weapon. Linda Hayes coordinated supply operations that kept human forces equipped with captured alien weapons and provisions. The former executive had become a logistics expert who understood how to sustain military operations using enemy resources. Emma Morrison captured High Admiral Kexmore's flagship, leading a boarding party that eliminated the alien command staff with mechanical efficiency. The young woman felt no emotion as she prepared to interrogate the enemy commander for intelligence about Empire fleet dispositions. The humans broadcast Kexmore's interrogation throughout the Vaktai fleet using psychological techniques that broke alien morale more effectively than any weapon. The sight of their supreme commander begging for mercy from human children destroyed enemy will to fight. Amy Rodriguez extracted critical intelligence about Vaktai Empire strategic plans and fleet movements from captured officers. The information would prove invaluable for planning future operations against alien targets. Kate Sullivan documented the complete destruction of the enemy invasion force while noting the continued evolution of human capabilities. The survivors had become something new that combined intelligence and creativity with predatory instincts forged by systematic brutality. The battle ended with the annihilation of the Vaktai reinforcement fleet as 200 ships were reduced to debris fields scattered throughout the system. Only 3 vessels escaped to carry word of the disaster back to the Empire. Carter surveyed the aftermath from his command center, watching as human teams systematically eliminated any surviving aliens. The transformation was complete as former slaves had become apex predators who understood exactly how to destroy their enemies. Emma Morrison stood on the bridge of the captured flagship holding Kexmore's command insignia as a trophy. The young woman who had grown up planning such victories felt only satisfaction at the sight of total alien defeat. The humans had proven that superior technology could not guarantee victory over determined opponents who refused to accept defeat. The galaxy would remember this lesson as news of human capabilities spread to other civilizations. 5 years after their final victory over the Vaktai Empire, humanity had spread throughout the Kepler 442 system and beyond, but the species that emerged from the camps bore little resemblance to the peaceful colonists who once sought a better life among the stars. War Commander Alex Carter led human expansion fleets into former Vaktai space, where his forces systematically conquered alien worlds with efficiency that impressed even hardened military observers. The techniques learned in the camps had been refined into a science of domination. Emma Morrison commanded the human intelligence network that infiltrated alien civilizations throughout the sector. Her operatives were all camp-born like herself, and they could pass as harmless refugees while gathering information for future conquest operations. The humans had become apex predators who understood that fear was more powerful than any energy weapon. Their fleets carried weapons that combined the best of human innovation with captured alien technology, but their most devastating tools were psychological. Kate Sullivan documented the continuing evolution of the human species as adaptations that began in the camps were passed to new generations. Post-liberation humans were stronger, faster, and more intelligent than their ancestors, but they had lost something essential. We have gained physical capabilities beyond anything in our evolutionary history, Sullivan reported to the Leadership Council. But we have sacrificed the capacity for mercy toward those we perceive as enemies. Carol Wright served as Minister of Psychological Operations, coordinating propaganda campaigns that exploited the weaknesses of every alien species they encountered. The former advertising executive had become a master of terror who understood how to break enemy morale. Bobby Cheon led research teams that reverse-engineered alien technology from dozens of conquered worlds. The engineer had access to scientific knowledge from multiple civilizations and used it to create weapons that surpassed anything the galaxy had seen. Human children played games and captured alien cities that involved hunting civilian populations for sport while their parents watched with approval. These were not the humans who left Earth seeking peaceful settlement, but something new forged in the crucible of systematic oppression. Amy Rodriguez coordinated spy networks that penetrated governments and military organizations across 12 different star systems. The former Laurier had become a spy master who understood how to manipulate alien societies from within. Ryan Clark supervised the construction of weapons factories on conquered worlds using slave labor from the species they defeated. The demolitions expert had learned to think on galactic scales that encompassed the systematic exploitation of entire civilizations. Linda Hayes managed the logistics of human expansion, ensuring that conquest fleets remained supplied with weapons provisions and replacement personnel. The former executive had become an expert in the economics of interstellar warfare. The humans welcomed challenges from alien coalitions because war had become their natural state. Generations born after liberation knew only conflict and viewed peaceful coexistence as a sign of weakness rather than civilization. Maria Santos coordinated communications between human forces scattered across multiple star systems. The expanded network allowed for real-time coordination of operations that spanned light years and involved millions of personnel intelligence. Reports indicated that 12 different alien species were forming a defensive alliance against human expansion. The coalition represented the largest military force ever assembled in the galaxy, but humans viewed it as an opportunity rather than a threat. They are responding exactly as we predicted, Carter told the War Council as they reviewed tactical assessments. Fear makes them predictable, and predictable enemies are easily defeated. Emma Morrison smiled coldly as she studied the Alien Alliance's military preparations. The young commander had never known peace and viewed the approaching conflict as entertainment, rather than a serious challenge to human dominance. Kate Sullivan watched human children practice combat techniques that incorporated lessons learned from fighting dozens of different alien species. These young warriors combined the best tactics from every civilization they had. Conquered Carol Wright prepared broadcasts designed to spread terror throughout the Alien Alliance before hostilities began. The psychological warfare specialist understood that victory could be achieved through reputation alone. If properly managed, the humans must be stopped before they consume the entire galaxy. Intercepted alien transmissions revealed the depth of fear that human expansion had created among surviving civilizations. Human response fleets were already moving to intercept the alien coalition, using intelligence gathered by Amy Rodriguez's spy networks. The approaching enemy force represented millions of ships from dozens of species, but humans had prepared countermeasures. Bobby Chion's latest weapons incorporated technology stolen from every civilization they had encountered. Human ships carried firepower that exceeded anything previously seen in galactic warfare, combined with defensive systems that had proven invulnerable. The camp-born generation had reached positions of leadership throughout human society, bringing with them perspectives shaped by systematic brutality and absolute dedication to human supremacy. These individuals felt no guilt about their methods. Ryan Clark coordinated the deployment of weapons that would turn entire star systems into killing fields. The strategic thinking developed during the Resistance had evolved into planning that encompassed galactic-scale operations. Kate Sullivan realized that humanity had become something unprecedented in galactic history, a species that viewed war as natural and peace as an aberration. The survivors had evolved beyond their original nature into perfect predators. Emma Morrison addressed human forces preparing for the largest military operation in their history. The young commander, who had grown up planning such conflicts, felt only anticipation as she prepared to face the Alien Alliance. They called us primitive when they enslaved us, Morrison told the assembled warriors. They tried to break our spirits and turn us into livestock for their empires. They succeeded in breaking something, but it was not our spirits. The human fleet moved through hyperspace toward the approaching Alien Alliance, carrying weapons and tactics that represented the combined knowledge of conquered civilizations. These were not explorers seeking new worlds, but predators hunting prey. Alex Carter studied tactical displays showing the positions of both fleets as they prepared for the decisive battle. The former Marine had become something his ancestors would not recognize, a leader who understood that mercy was weakness. The Alien Coalition represented the desperate attempt of 12 species to stop human expansion before it consumed everything they had built over millennia. But they faced enemies who had learned warfare from masters of cruelty and perfected it beyond imagination. Carol Wright's final broadcast to the galaxy contained humanity's response to the Alien Alliance. You brought hell to our doorstep when you enslaved us. But hell was just the beginning of what humans could become when we had nothing left to lose. The approaching battle would determine whether humanity's transformation from peaceful colonists to galactic predators would continue unchecked. The aliens hoped that superior numbers could compensate for human tactical superiority. Kate Sullivan documented the final preparations as human forces prepared to demonstrate what they had learned from 5 years of systematic conquest. The species that emerged from the camps understood only one law: survival through absolute dominance. Emma Morrison felt no emotion as she prepared to lead humanity's children into battle against an enemy that represented the combined might of multiple civilizations. These young warriors had been shaped by their environment into perfect instruments of war. The galaxy would soon learn whether anything could stop humanity's transformation into the apex predators. their alien captors had created through systematic brutality and the systematic elimination of human mercy and compassion.